Hello everybody, welcome back. The Music Fan is here, bringing smiles to the faces, knowledge to the people, and most importantly, music to the masses. And I am enjoying a wonderful Monday off, really comfortable, and I'm back with another start of a digging through the discographies. Now I do apologize that I was not able to put anything out last week. It's due to I've been applying to new jobs and have been getting ready for a couple of interviews this week, so hopefully things will be changing pretty soon. But also, I haven't had internet access for the last couple of days, so I've been able to work on this stuff. But that doesn't mean you aren't going to get the videos that you were promised last week. You're still going to get them. One already came out, one will be coming out later today, and then the next one will be coming out tomorrow. But I am back with another digging through discographies, and this is going to be the last one for this year. It's going to be a four-parter of an interesting band. A little bit of a difference between the Linkin Park one and the Haken one. This is going to be a more mainstream band, and one that just put out an album not too long ago. So let's get right into it. So today we are talking about Mumford Sons, a band that I didn't really listen to much of their first album other than the hits, but loved their second album and was a little bit mixed on their third. I actually did an album review, one of my first RUNs, on that album, but now I'm going to be able to rectify that particular album review, and I'll be able to talk about Delta as the last one. I still haven't listened to it yet. I probably won't for another couple of weeks because I have some other stuff I want to listen to, but I'm super excited to go through this. Now, for those of you who don't know who Mumford Sons is, they are a folk rock / alternative rock band from London. The members include Marcus Mumford on lead vocals, electric guitar, acoustic guitar, and drums, Ben Levitt on vocals, keyboard, piano, and synthesizer, Winston Marshall on vocals, electric guitar, and banjo, and Ted Dwayne on vocals, bass guitar, and double bass. Now, this band was formed in December 2007. The band name originates from Marcus Mumford being the lead singer and the most visible member of the band, and is supposed to invoke the sense of an antiquated family business name. In early 2008, the band began working with manager Adam Tudhope, who, as a part of management company Everybody's, also represents Keane and Laura Marling. It was through Tudhope's connection that Mumford Sons was exposed to their future A&R at Island, Louis Bloom, who began monitoring the band. So, around 2008, they started touring a lot. They did an extensive UK tour in February 2008 with Alessi's Ark, Sons of Noel and Adrian, Peggy Sue, and others. June 2008, they got their first appearance at Glastonbury Festival, and they also toured Australia with Laura Marling to garner more experience in the spotlight. After all of that, they worked on their first project, which was an EP entitled Love Your Ground, which took a year to complete and was released in November 2008 at Chess Club Records. That did garner a little bit more attention to them. Throughout 2008 and into 2009, Mumford Sons performed in small to moderate venues in the UK and US, exposing audiences to Love Your Ground tracks and other material that would eventually become Sigh No More. The band finally recorded Sigh No More with Marcus Draves, who had produced albums with artists such as Arcade Fire. At the time, band members did not even own their own instruments. They came into the studio without actually any instruments, and Draves actually turned them away before actually deciding to work with them. So, for those of you out there who don't own any instruments but want to be a musician, there's still a chance for you out there. The only track from Love Your Ground to be included in Sigh No More was their iconic Little Lion Man. The band told the Herald Sun that they self-financed the album to avoid the artistic and technical compromises that sometimes befall studio finance projects. So this was an album that was a love note to them, if you will. It was handcrafted by them, and it was taken out of their own money to actually do this. They toured again in support of Laura Marling in 2009, and Mumford Sons was actually a contributing musician to her 2010 album, I Speak Because I Can. In August 2009, Mumford Sons signed a licensing deal to Island Records in the UK, to Due Process in Australia and New Zealand, to Glassnote Records in North America, and Cooperative Music in the rest of the world, and through its own label, Gentlemen of the Road. The album itself was released on October 2nd, 2009 in the UK, and February 16th, 2010 in the US and Canada. The name of this album actually comes from a line in Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing, and several other lines from that play appear in the title's track. So we delved into a little bit of the beginning, so now let's actually talk about this album. I will say, if you listen to Sigh No More, the first song on the album, it kind of hints at a lot of what this band is trying to do. You get a lot of this acoustic nature at the beginning, and some very subdued acoustic nature at that. You get a lot of harmonies on there, and you get a lot of building from the beginning to the end, especially with this take at the middle with this more rhythmic guitar, and the full band coming in with banjo, with some kicked bass drum, and with piano and bass. You get this feel of this band working together as a unit very well, whether they're singing together or they're performing together. And you get a lot of that feel throughout the rest of the album, whether it's The Cave, which has an incredible beginning, one of the more iconic guitar lines that you probably have heard, the do 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 do. That's also mimicked in the melody in the verse, and some great harmonies on there, and it builds more and more as time goes on. And even the last part of this is very interesting, with this more subdued bridge with muted guitar and horns, and then the last chorus having so much energy and some nice building and more difference in the chorus melody, and especially that "I know my name as it calls again." That major seventh going to the one at the end is a very, very nice touch. Winter Winds is this another single off the album that has this 6/8 feel, very jubilant, very much feels like a minstrel or medieval song, and it feels like a song that's very raucous in nature, like you were having a party in the 1200s. You would see, I feel like you would see this band just walking around and everyone being happy around them, even though the lyrics themselves aren't necessarily the most happy. But great melody, very simplistic in nature, and a lot of fun to listen to. Roll Away Your Stone is where it starts feeling a little bit same to me. Roll Away Your Stone has this feel kind of like The Cave in its nature, and the only thing that makes up for it is the fact that it switched over to the 6/8 part at the end, kind of mimicking The Cave. So it kind of takes a little bit of both of them, and to me doesn't do it amazingly, but it's an alright song. It just kind of overstays its welcome, and if it wasn't for that 6/8 part, I think it would have been the worst song on the album. White Blank Page, so much energy, so much great energy on this song. A lot of really good feeling in here, so many good harmonies. This is where there's a lot of anger on this song. You actually feel that anger throughout this particular song. And I love the harmonies that does so well for the energy. One of my favorite songs on the album, especially at the end where this drum starts hitting in this 3/4 pattern, a little bit slower than everything else compared to the 6/8. Then we get to my two favorite songs on the album. I Gave You All, which is a slow burner when it comes to building. So much good work on here. It starts with this beautifully melancholy / a little bit eerie guitar chord progression with a lot of guitar picking, like finger picking on there. And it just starts with Marcus Mumford for the most part. And then eventually he adds a little bit more to it, and I love this little part in there where it adds this 3/4 measure to parts of this interlude, so it switches between 4/4 and 3/4 at time, and then it keeps building a little bit more and more, making it a little bit more atmospheric, and then you get to the chorus when he sings, "I gave you all," and the cool thing about it is the rest of the band comes in right there and makes that first chorus haunting because of the way that they structured that. And then the rest of the band starts coming in. You get the drums, the banjo, the bass, and the piano. But the nice thing with the banjo, it doesn't do the finger plucking, fast paced thing there. It actually gives them more of a rhythmic idea, and it just keeps building and building to this beautiful crescendo, talking about now you've won. And then it gets back to that last I gave you all, and they slow it down, and then it does this finger picking part again, a little bit more slowed down. And to me, it's a beautiful song that shows, just as musicians, what they can do. It shows the strength of building a song like that. It's just really cool to hear. And of course, Little Lion Man, fantastic one with, again, another one that builds very well. Does it sound any different from some of the other songs on the album? No, but I think the energy is great. I think the imagery of the lyrics is top notch, and I like the fast pacedness of everything. And then the fact that it starts coming down in energy, and it's just the piano and the bass and a little bit of muted guitar in the bridge, and then they start doing the and each time they keep adding more and more parts until it starts coming to a crescendo with a like, all that is so cool to listen to. And then they get to the chorus again, and they do it a cappella really quickly before bringing the band back in, and then they finally do an a cappella one at the end. It's a lot of fun. It's one of the most fast-paced songs on the album, and it's really cool to listen to. I'll say the latter half of the album isn't as interesting. After you get to that, you kind of get to some stuff that kind of either does that idea a little bit of the same, or doesn't bring enough to the table to make it as interesting. Timshell is an interesting one. It kind of feels a little bit like some other songs I hear on later albums, and it's mostly just acoustic guitar and the band itself just doing melodies and harmonies. And they do bring in a little bit of banjo, which could have been annoying, because why ruin such an interesting song? But it doesn't become the forefront of the song, which is good to hear. Thistles and Weeds is this one that kind of does this building again, the slow build like I Gave You All. I will say, though, the arrangement isn't as interesting to me. It's a nice, eerie, and one of the more dark songs on the album, but doesn't build the way that some of these other songs do. Because of that, makes it a little bit less interesting. Awake My Soul, again, is one with two different parts. It's a slower one at the beginning, and then it goes into this more fast-paced rhythm guitar. Things that you've already heard on the album before. The only thing that makes it stand out is the 7/4 verse part. Everything else kind of just doesn't really do much for me. Dust Bowl Dance is actually the one highlight on the latter half, other than Little Lion Man. I really like the difference in the instrumentation. You actually get the forefront of it this time being the piano. And then there's a little bit of guitar, and there's a little bit of brushed drums, which actually gives a nice percussive feel, because you don't really get a lot of interesting percussive ideas on this album. You kind of just get that kick drum throughout most of the album, but this one you actually get to hear something a little bit different. And again, it builds very well, and it builds differently from everything else around it because of the different instrumentation. There's even electric guitar on here, and an electric guitar like noise solo at the end. It makes it stand out, and it kind of makes me wish that there was a little bit more of that on this album. And then you get After the Storm, which is a beautiful closer that is mostly just picked electric guitar and a little bit of like atmospheric drums at parts. And unlike everything else, it doesn't build the way that you think it would. It kind of does this false build, which is a nice touch compared to everything else that has come on this album. It makes it stand out because of that. And there's also this little nice chorus idea where throughout the chorus they add one more 4/4 measure. So overall, this is a pretty awesome debut album. You get a lot of really good singles, but you get a little bit of depth there as well. There's a lot of really good imagery on this album, whether if it's a song like Sigh No More, which takes a little bit of Much Ado About Nothing, or if it's the cave that uses the allegory of Plato's The Cave throughout the song, or if it's Winter Winds, which has this more jubilant nature but is talking about a past love during the winter of London. Roll Away Your Stone is using this more allegorical way of talking about addiction and freeing yourself from addiction by using the idea of Christ's rebirth. White blank page to me actually is one of my favorite ideas, is being in a relationship and having it fall apart and then feeling so much rage and so much emotion, but you can't even put it down on a piece of paper. I think that's a really cool idea. I Gave You All also has a lot of great lyrical energy. As this song is going on in its building, it's also trying to grasp the ideas of a failed relationship and now trying to see who wins after everything has fallen apart. Little Lion Man is using this idea of growing and learning from mistakes and past mistakes due to, you know, someone's ego or someone's pride, and hoping to learn from that, or else, you know, you're biting your own neck, or you're doing all these things to hurt yourself. Timshell is actually a Hebrew word meaning thou mayest. I hope I said that right. And is actually a reference to East of Eden, which is a John Steinbeck novel and is one of Marcus Mumford's favorite books. And from what I understand, this particular song is referencing a part of the book where it's talking about the gloriousness of being able to choose in life and being able to make decisions for oneself. Thistles and Weeds is one talking about someone down on their luck and done with life and society. Dust Bowl Dance is talking about someone who lost it all during the Dirty 30s, during the Dust Bowl. And After the Storm is this one talking about trials and tribulations getting past them and feeling like after the storm. There's a lot of really good imagery. There's a lot of really good references. There's even a lot of biblical references that I don't really understand, nor do I necessarily care about. But there's a lot of good lyric writing on this album. If you take away from all the kind of similar sounding songs on here, you get a lot of really good lyrics on, you know, like Little Lion Lamb, like I Gave You All, like Thistles and Weeds. There's a lot of really, really good imagery on here. And, you know, one that I never really understood at the beginning, but now that I've listened to it a couple different times, now I finally see that that is the case. I will say, in terms of any negatives, there is a little bit of stuff that sounds a little bit too similar. And in particular, I want to go over a couple of things, just like guitar-wise. There's this pattern that keeps happening throughout a lot of these fast-paced guitar parts, where it's a and it's not to say that it's not a bad rhythm, it just kind of gets overplayed throughout this album, where not every song that's fast-paced has to use that idea. Or the 6/8 feel. So like, say on Winter Winds, a lot of the 6/8 feels kind of feel the same with the I understand that there's a certain type of feel that they're trying to get with this Appalachia, very folky kind of music with a lot of harmonies, a lot of beautiful, like echoey harmonies that you hear like in the mountains, and you have this particular feel that you're trying to get with the folky idea, with this acoustic guitar, with the kick drum idea. But I think because of that, you know, it's a great beginning album, but I think if there was one weakness is that some of these kind of feel a little bit of the same at times. And when you go front to back, you get kind of a little bit of monotonous stuff. And this one's might be easier to listen to just the actual, like a song at a time rather than the whole entire album. But I think it's still great. I would definitely listen to the album again. It's just, I know that there will be times where this feels kind of similar. To me, my favorite songs on the albums are I Gave You All, Little Lion Man, Dust Bowl Dance, Winter Winds, The Cave. I think all those are great songs. And even White Blank Page, After the Storm, and Thistles and Weeds, I would say from there, after that, the last four songs aren't as interesting to me. But I think there's a lot of really good stuff on here. And I think there is just enough of some of these arrangements that even though they sound similar, give it a little bit of a difference. The building on all of these songs are great, and it just shows what you can do as a band. You know, especially with pop music, where sometimes it kind of doesn't have that emotional range. It's nice to see an album that got a lot of publicity that does have a lot of emotional range, not just through the lyrics, but also through the arrangement itself. So, if you've never listened to this album, definitely take a listen. I would say first, if you're trying to understand what this band feels like, go through the singles. I think that will give you a good idea. And then, you know, with I Gave You All, I think that also gives you an idea of the emotional range of this particular band. Now, this particular album had 4 singles, at least in the UK. One of them wasn't actually done in the US. So, Little Iron Man was the lead single of this album. Was released on August 11, 2009. The single reached number 21 in the UK singles chart, number 45 in the Billboard Hot 100, number 1 on the Billboard Alternative Songs chart, and number 3 in the Australian singles chart. Winter Winds was released on December 6, 2009 as the second single for the UK. The single managed to reach number 44 on the UK single chart. The Cave was released on February 26, 2010, and was the third single for the UK side and the second one for the US. It reached number 31 in the UK singles chart, number 27 in the Billboard Hot 100, number 3 on the Billboard Alternative Songs chart, number 10 in the Irish singles charts, and number 17 in the ARIA chart. This particular song was released on October 25th, 2010 in the US. And then Roll Away Your Stone was released on June 3rd, 2010 as the 4th single for the album. Its single peaked at number 141 and number 10 on the Billboard's Alternative Songs chart. The album entered the UK Albums chart at number 11 and peaked at number 2 on February 20th, 2011. So this was kind of a slow burner when it came to its popularity, because that was the 72nd week on the chart, and that was only after earning the Album of the Year at the Brit Awards. The album sold over 1 million copies in the UK and over 3 million in the US. In the US, the album sold 626,000 copies in 2010 and 1,282 million in 2011. As of May 2015, it has sold over 3.2 million copies in the US and is certified 3 times platinum. It was the second debut album after The Fame by Lady Gaga to sell 1 million digital copies, with 1,656,000 copies sold. In early 2001, the album peaked at number 2 on the Billboard 200 in the US. In mid-2010, it was rated the year-to-date 8th best record by the NPR's All Songs Considered. On July 20th, 2010, it was shortlisted for the Mercury Prize, awarded annually for the best album in the UK and Ireland. In December 2010, a deluxe album was released, which included the original album, a live CD of the concert from the O2 Shepherd's Bush Empire, and a DVD containing parts 1, 2, and 3 of the Gentlemen of the Road documentaries. In December 2010, Mumford Sons earned Grammy Award nominations for Best New Artist and Best Rock Song for Little Lion Man, but did not win. But they did perform The Cave during the ceremony. And in the US, it was the 3rd most digitally downloaded album in 2011, selling 761,000 copies. So it did have a lot of reach and hit a lot of highs for this band on a debut album. It's a really good debut album. Now, to say, is it better than the next album? Who knows? I know, and I won't tell you until next week. And you won't know unless you do a couple things. First off, of course, if you like this album or this video, give it a like. Tell me what you love or hate about this album, as well as your memories of this particular album. Share this with your friends, subscribe to my channel, that would be the most important thing, and also just hit that bell so that you can be notified on when I put up other videos. Now, I will also be putting up one more video from last week, and I'm really excited about that one. And then I'll be hitting you with 3 more this week, including the second part of this digging through discography, which will be either Friday or Saturday. So keep out for this. Next time, we'll be talking about Babel. But until then, this is the Music Fan, and I am signing off.